Hi, everybody. It's No Show. I'm Matt Brown, joined as always by Jeff Borman. Our guest today, Aran Ryan, he knows so much about tourism that he can probably tell you where you're going to go next on vacation before you even know. Aran is the Director of Industry Studies at Tourism Economics, an Oxford economics company, and has over 25 years of consulting experience related to lodging, casino gaming, short-term vacation rentals, visitor activity, and destination development. He assists everybody in hotels, owners, operators, and he helps them to understand the impact of tourism industry trends. He's an analytics geek. He's a father. He's a lover of the outdoors, a cyclist. He is the go-to conference speaker on tourism trends. He's a Philly fanatic. Aran Ryan, welcome to No Show.
Good afternoon.
Like we were joking earlier, because you live in Philadelphia, he said, what if you really were the Philly fanatic as your side job? And it's like, guys, I got to leave in 30 minutes. We got Cardinals tonight. I got to do photo ops.
That would be great.
that would already add a lot onto your very, very busy schedule.
Instead of talking baseball, that's way too much fun. Let's talk about tariffs.
Yes. Yes.
Let's talk about torching the economy. Can we do that for a while?
Speaking of your day job, it's been in the news a lot recently. Tariff situation in America and outside of America is changing daily. And while the emphasis has been on physical goods, there is a palpable shadow on tourism, not just from tariffs, but from a lot of factors that are going on right now with America and its place in the world. Tourism economics has been cited in many articles over the last couple of weeks. A report that recently came out by Tourism Economics expected a 9.4% decline in international visitor arrivals for 2025. International visitor spending in the U.S. is set to decline by 5%. That is a loss of $9 billion in spending. $6.4 billion of decreased spending in destinations, plus $2.5 billion of lost transportation spending. Every day there are updates to this. I don't know how you keep up with it. Aran, can you take us down the roads of what is negatively affecting tourism in America?
So I think our views on this have had to evolve as sort of some of the news has come forward. And so, yeah, we're thinking about it, framing it as those channels because it's useful for people to understand the types of effects that we think are going to be slowing that international inbound travel. So if I summarized it briefly, we're looking at negative sentiment effects, which is basically Canadians and others are angry at us now. Immigration and border uncertainty, it can be scary to cross borders, and stories of detainments don't help. Third, we have a situation with a very strong U.S. dollar. So the U.S. is about 20% more expensive than normal. So that's another headwind that we're seeing. And then two more. We're anticipating weaker economies in Canada and Mexico as these tariffs particularly impact our neighbors. And now we're taking it home here and looking at uncertainties around the domestic economy and concerns about how the domestic traveler may pull back.
It may not be directly related to travel, but the sentiment I thought that has captured the market, the global market so well was when France asked for the Statue of Liberty back and we said, you can take it. Is there a more illustrative way you could describe the feeling outside of America looking in right now? Your outfit put together a number that I really grabbed onto, that the U.S. is expected to lose 1.5 percentage points of global market share by 26. And that is a massive number on top of an existing trade deficit, right? The tourism trade deficit. Does that continue from 2026, or is it just too early to say right now since you're measuring sentiment?
I think we're viewing it as a reset downward, but it probably dissipates over time. I'm not sure when it's going to be the stiffest headwind, but eventually that eases.
When you do this research, who do you survey to get this kind of insight? How's that done?
Yeah, so some of it early on has been talking to people in the industry and hearing about what they're hearing. So groups that are canceling for this winter, some of those sort of leading indicators. And then it's quickly become some actual hard data coming in. So for today, we just received the preliminary March international inbound numbers. So it's really exciting and disappointing to see. So total overseas was down 11.6% in March relative to a prior year. Western Europe down 17%. Central America, 23% down, Caribbean, 26% down. I mean, those are major shifts here in just a short period of time.
Yeah, I heard a core quote, they're seeing 25% down from Europe into the US right now. I mean, it's staggering. Are you seeing or hearing an industry voice that is revolting against this movement, against this trend?
It's a mosaic of responses, right? I think as people, I
That's a
mean,
poetic way of putting this.
there's somebody leading the charge on the whole effort that I don't know that is interested in hearing those voices, right?
Well said.
When did it dawn on you and your research team that this was not going to be a blip? I mean, I can't imagine what your information processing structure has been like. And I was also kind of thinking, we were talking about before this interview, I think this is a pitfall of every forecaster and economist in the world, but you did this bulk of research last year that was talking about 2025. And then in the span of a few days, I feel like it's almost all gone. When moments like this come along after a year or longer of hard work and research, do you embrace the zen of it all? Do you kick over trash cans? Do you have like a whole team of people working 24 hours? What do you do when models blow up?
Well, I think the story has shifted, and you kind of got to be on the story. So when the story shifts, you stay with it. And so that's been the piece here. Originally in December, we put out a note after the election saying this is what we saw in the first Trump administration, and we expect some headwinds to travel. We expect some of these sentiment effects. But at that point in time, we didn't expect it would go this far. So since that point, we've been continually updating that view and trying to stay on top of what that latest expectation is.
Last summer, when you were on the hotel data circuit giving updates and prognostications, you had a slide that I remember very well, going through a Biden-Harris victory, and then the header was full-blown Trump. Does this exceed all of your prognostications and all the modeling for full-blown Trump?
Yeah, it's been off the charts, and that's for us as well. So we rely on our broader Oxford economics views on the economic outlook, and so they had done some of those scenarios pre-election and said, here's what we think tariff rates could be under a full-blown Trump scenario, and now they've done updated slides that show, are we higher than sort of the highest tariff scenario that they had published.
I mean, we keep hearing and reading that economists all agree that tariffs are a bad idea, but very few of us actually hang out with economists. You do. Do you know any economist that thinks that this trade war is smart, and particularly for travel? Anybody? Anybody come back? You don't even have to say their name. Actually, please say their name. They're our next guest.
No, I have not seen folks underscoring this, saying this is the banner year coming.
Okay, good. Well, I can keep saying I don't know a single economist. Thank you.
We've been wondering what just on street level hotels and tourism related businesses are going to do. Like, how are they going to ride this out? Have you seen any data that talks to how all this is going to affect building a hotel or an airport or any kind of tourism related business for that matter? I mean, when you start talking about steel, TV monitors, furniture, transportation, it's like I wonder what the slowdown is going to be on the stuff side, on the product side.
Yeah, I think on the first thing about pivoting, it does maybe go back to that individual traveler a little bit. I mean, you've seen some of the destinations try to position themselves in the minds of, say, Canadian visitors as being, it might have been Palm Springs with some banners up saying, this is Palm Springs, identify with us as the destination rather than the US as the country, in a sense. So I think there's those opportunities. And for individual operators, the same thing, that if somebody has come to your property before and you remind them of that relationship and the trust they had and how they were treated when they were there, that's really powerful stuff. And I think that travelers remember that and can latch onto that and make a decision in this chaos.
I think it was stunning for us to see the numbers associated with Canadian tourism. I think we kind of take Canadian tourism for granted and the billions of dollars it puts in this economy. This came up, we kind of foreshadowed this about a year ago. Jeff and I did spring training and went to a Blue Jays game. All these snowbirds who came down from Canada. It's like, oh, wow, this must just be generating a lot for wherever we're, Dunedin or wherever we were. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
right, this is happening all over in ways that we don't realize. Quick trips to New York City, to Seattle, to little the American Southwest, ways for Canadians to kind of get sun. And I had not realized how big of an impact that they actually had.
I saw numbers from Booking and Expedia that into Seattle, Canadians are down 50%, roughly. Right? One was like 45, 155, something like that. But there's a massive market on the border, right? And specifically to baseball, though, the Toronto Blue Jays are the biggest demand draw for the Seattle Mariners. People from Canada come to see their Blue Jays play. Down 32% for Blue Jays weekend. How long will the hotel community, the travel industry, the hospitality industry, it goes wider and wider and wider, put up with this? These are eventually it's going to come, and maybe Aaron, this is the question. Eventually, it's going to come to these are real jobs on the line. I think we can measure the dollars a bit easier. We watch market caps just blowing up. We watch investment drying up. But eventually, this has got to hit jobs, right?
Yeah. I mean, if this is the approach to fixing the trade deficit, it's not going in the right direction in tourism.
We're fixing Canada's trade deficit.
Aaron, is there anywhere in America that's exempt from this? Is Vegas tariff proof? I know you've done a lot on kind of casino gaming. Do the Vegas and Orlando's, do they get a little bit of insulation from some of this stuff, you think?
I think some of that repeat traveler, if they know the location, maybe they come back to it. Maybe there's a bit of that for some people in Vegas. I mean, the thing that concerns me is that it's, broad strokes, international travelers are affected. And then domestically, if folks are spending that discretionary money that was previously available for travel, if that's now getting spent to pay tariffs and higher costs for items, I think it's going to affect a lot of places.
Are there countries that are benefiting from the decline of inbound U.S. travel, as staying at home in Canada or staying at home in Europe? Are you seeing any trend that we are actually helping other tourist destinations?
It's hard to see the data yet, but I think that is the view, that it likely helps maybe Western Europe to a degree, for example. I think Canada is a little bit dependent on these follow-on trips that somebody's visiting both the U.S. and Canada. And so if those fall back, then it also hurts Canada.
Is there a silver lining to this?
I don't know if I'll call it a silver lining, but I think it is a little bit along the lines of what you're asking. And you may have seen me use a slide before that looked at durable goods purchases over time and said, as we came out of the pandemic, right, there was durable good purchases soared, and spending on recreation and broader services was taking longer to recover. And I kept looking at that slide, quarter after quarter, and you're saying like, this has got to shift, right? We have enough patio furniture and these other items, this clutter that we've built up. We got to switch back to those experiences that we all loved, and we did. It just didn't shift the numbers as much as I thought it would. But the things that are getting tariffed right now are goods. So some of that patio furniture, is sort of insanely cheap. Like, right, it doesn't seem to catch the externalities of what do we do with that garbage when it's done. Where are those resources coming from? So I think it's, not a terribly bad thing that some of that stuff costs a bit more, and maybe some people direct their spending to, some of those yoga classes, or go to see a local live band or something. That money's, staying local and going directly into people's pocketbooks.
Do you think there's a possibility that people will stay closer to home and that local tourism economies will get like a little bit of a boost from this, maybe?
Yeah. And I think some people will stay close to the home. As you get a little bit uncertain about things, you revert to that planned trip or that local regional trip. And we should keep in mind that even if we're talking about, say, out of 100 guests that typically showed up on a given weekend night, that, we're talking about a dip that, say, 96 or 98 of them still come. And that's the sort of impact that, can freak out hoteliers. But most people are still traveling, so it's not all going away.
I did see, and I apologize, I don't have the number handy, but the National Restaurant Association put out, I think, their Q1 report, something like this, that showed dining in restaurants in America down 5% year to date, something to that effect, and a corollary metric the opposite direction of cooking at home. It may have been a survey, but we're seeing, or at least I've been reading, that there is a shift of less dining out, more self-service at home right now, and food price being supposedly the real driver of that. I saw an article on it was an op-ed by a gentleman named Martin Ferguson. I've never heard of him before. I read this just yesterday. And it was kind of a silver lining approach to this. He said, on the face of this, meaning trade war, it's about steel, semiconductors, and solar panels. But really, if you pivot away from how this is going to affect travel, it's going to regionalize. Globalization is not finished. It's not over with, but it will more regionalize economies. With that, though, because it will become more difficult to interact in a cross-border manner, if that ends up being the case, it actually could produce a more important business travel segment, right? The person who has the knowledge and the trust of the people on the ground, who knows how to get in and out of countries with product, with service, who knows local regulations, which are probably going to get more disparate from place to place to place, more difficult, more challenging, that it could put more emphasis on the need for business travel in the long run. I love the optimism. How does that resonate with you?
I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic too, and I love scraping for the positive in things. I don't know that one's jiving with me.
Yeah, I wonder where the rubber really hits the road is when we start getting away from physical products. And I'm thinking about the impact on hotels even for this or any kind of tourism. Like once you start getting away from like physical imports like the steel and the semiconductors, and you start moving into tech products, SaaS products. It's like, okay, now we're going to have tariffs. And like, what if Europe comes back and says, okay, here's 25% tariff on Salesforce, on Netflix, on MailChimp. Let's go down the list of all the things that are exports from the US, but then also things that I think are part of the travel experience and the sales experience for travel companies in the US. They're used every day, every minute. I wonder how far this tariff situation is going to go when it comes to what is a product and what's not.
Matt, I mean, Europe has notoriously been going after our tech industry with fines, right? Going after Google, billion-dollar fines for antitrust issues. Apple for tax issues in the tax haven in Ireland, right? And EU's trying to suck some cash out of that, right? So I think our tech industry, which is frankly without rival globally, has been a target. And I think, again, just opinion, the tariffs that we're seeing on manufactured goods are probably retaliatory, even to your question, right? You're attacking our industry. We're going to attack your industry in some way. I'm not at all trying to justify the action, but I think what you're saying, Matt, is already kind of playing out right now, just in a little bit of reverse. Not will they come after service industries? It's they already have. And so now we're going after the stuff they make too. One thing that really stands out to me that I'd still love to hear Aran's take on here is last week's bloodbath was historic in the marketplace. S&P 10% plunge on a 2-day cycle, a Thursday and a Friday to lose 10%, 11 trillion since the Trump slump began on Inauguration Day. 11 trillion. Can you help us put into perspective how the immensity of an $11 trillion stock market equities wipeout? Doge is only going to claw back a few billion, maybe 20, 30, 40 billion, max 100 billion, right? We're still so far from an $11 trillion stock market wipeout. How does this come together? Can you make sense of it for me?
Yeah. So there's one piece is how does the equity decline impact household wealth and household spending? I think this episode's a little bit different. Sort of the focus is like we've seen these stock market declines, and it's almost a message of how business leaders are starting to view the situation. And some of that is even more threatening than the sort of the loss of, numbers on a screen or in a retirement account that are a little bit more abstract. I mean, the stock market was doing pretty well, right? So some of this is almost house money, right?
Yeah.
And so in and of itself, economists might say, look, the economy can take that sort of bump in the road. But if it's at the same time, if it's happening because everybody's become a lot less certain about the environment, And that's the piece that gets me, is more concerning.
I see two things to that bother me. And I don't mean your answer by any means. It's yes, the economy could have very well been overheating. At the same time, there was no reason to set fire to it, right? If it was going to lose a couple points, it didn't need to lose 10 points in 2 days, right? We didn't have to do that. The other part that I find really difficult is the Treasury Secretary said, I see no reason that we have to price in a recession to all of this talk. And it's like, well, but it's happening. That's the reason why you have to. It's already underway. So radio silence except for the dog.
It's time for the lightning round. A palate cleanser here after all this tariff talk. What's the best under the radar restaurant in Philadelphia?
If I get a choice that's not a restaurant, I'd say underrated lunch is to grab a sandwich and eat it in Rittenhouse Square sitting on the wall. That's the best sandwich in my mind.
Would it be a DeNick sandwich? Because then I'll join you.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a walk to do that. You'd probably have to break into the sandwich before you got there. So.
As I mentioned earlier, you've done a lot of work and a lot of research on casino hotels. What is the casino game you've been luckiest at?
I've probably lost money the slowest at craps.
Yeah. I hear you, and I see you, Aaron.
Is it impossible for people who are statistically minded to enjoy gaming in a casino?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, you can turn it off.
You can leave the office and go straight to a casino and then actually enjoy doing what you know is bad for you.
Yeah. I mean, it is primarily a work endeavor. This is less about personal recreation, but sure.
Of course.
No, I had somebody read my bio lately and they said experience in, and they named several sectors and then casino gaming. And then they sort of chuckled because they pictured that as being like, yeah, I'd just thrown in personal hobby there too.
What is your favorite hotel amenity?
I don't know. What am I happiest about when I see it?
Sure.
Gosh, I don't know. Not great at these kind of questions.
No, I get it. I get it.
I'll think of 3 answers here in 2 minutes.
I know. Totally. I thought you were just going to go easy, like pool. I was hoping for something really obscure, like
pool.
Like, oh right, there's a certain kind of coffee that's downstairs, and whenever I see that, but yeah, I get it.
I really love it when they give me 2 keys and I'm only one person. I just love it.
Aran Ryan, thank you for being a guest. Thank you for laying some truth down in an era that needs truth.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.